level as of the last 2 seasons, in my opinion. But he does still produce and still has some good football that he can play. So, the ends look good and there's good options there. But my question mark on the ends is question marks, I should say, is A, what can Robeson produce, and in what packages are we going to use him? And then B, how ready and active can Daniel Hunter, the pass rusher that we got in the third round of the draft, be? All right, so then we go to the interior of the defensive line, which a lot of people I should say, said stunk last year and was ripping and, were soft up the middle, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy that one bit. I think the main problem up the middle last year was that we had no linebackers that could find the gaps and the holes and make the tackles. It's not a defensive lineman's job. It's not a defensive tackle's job, to be, finishing the plays and making all the tackles. You move guys, you take up space, you take up blockers. The linebackers need to read the plays and come in and finish them. Okay, you're more of a strategy piece. You're not a closer. And I felt that was the main issues with our lack of ability to stop the run, especially up the middle. During last season. If you're a Vikings fan, you will recall that. However, we've got players at defensive tackle. We've got Linval Joseph, Sharif Floyd, and Tom Johnson, 3 guys that can play. All will make the team, and all can be productive both against the run and the pass. And then we've got the list of 4 guys who only 1 or 2 of them will make the team, either B.J. DuBose, Krishan Rose, Shamar Stephen, or Shigbo Anunoby. So look for at least 2 of those 4 names that I just mentioned to get cut, maybe 3. Depending on, and maybe Justin Tratau gets kept but can be moved to defensive tackle. Like I said, Scott Crichton can actually play defensive tackle quite well in pass rushing situations. So we've got versatility position-wise as well on the D-line with our pieces. All right, so let's get to the linebacking core here quick. Weak side linebacker would be arguably our weakest position and biggest question mark on the whole defense, with the exception of strong safety. Those are really the only 2 weaknesses on this defense, or question marks. Weak side linebacker, currently we have Chad Greenway penciled in, followed by Brandon Watts and Brian Peters. Now there was many years where having Chad Greenway penciled in as your starting linebacker meant you didn't need to worry about that production at that position or that player. But Chad is just simply not the same athlete that he used to be. And we all have no idea what he can still offer physically on a football field, period. And those other 2 guys I named, Brandon Watts and Brian Peters, are completely unproven. We have no idea if either one of those guys can play. So in my opinion, very likely that you will see strong side linebacker Gerald Hodges actually getting a large amount of work and reps over at the weak side linebacker. And in my opinion, if our weak side linebacker of the future is on our roster right now, it is my man, friend of the Scotty Ball family, actually. No lie, no BS. But I'm, not because I'm biased am I saying this. It's also my unbiased football opinion as well. But Gerald Hodges should be your weak side starting linebacker at some point in the season for the Vikings, simply because he is, by all measurables, the best guy for the job. But he is currently penciled in as Anthony Barr's replacement, fill-in, sub-in as strong side linebacker, which is more your every down, bigger part in the play call type of linebacker. And that's the skill set Gerald Hodges has. But it'd be nice to have him on one edge and Anthony Barr on the other edge. And I personally think Chad Greenway is more of a middle linebacker at this point in his career that should be allowed to, should be not asked to cover so much field and ground, but rather use his football IQ and his, sound veteran Pro Bowl experience technique, to finish plays and position himself and things of that nature. I feel he's better suited in those regards. So if it was me, I'd move Chad Greenway to middle linebacker alongside Eric Kendricks, the rookie. And Chad would probably be the middle linebacker then in the passing situations, and Eric could hopefully be the middle linebacker in the running situations. And then I would move both Audie Cole and Gerald Hodges to your weak side linebacker. Gerald Hodges is your starting weak side linebacker then in a run situation, and Audie Cole would be your starting weak side linebacker in a passing situation if you're still in a three linebacker format. And then you've got Anthony Barr always starting every down at strong side linebacker. Unless you need to give him a break, then like I said, then you can move Gerald Hodges to strong side. You've still got Kendricks or Greenway in the middle, or Greenway or Audie Cole at weak side should you need three linebackers. So linebacking core is questionable. It'll be we don't know how good Eric Kendricks is going to be at middle linebacker. If he is as good as we think he's going to be when we took him with our second round pick, we're good to go then at both middle linebacker and strong side linebacker for the next 10 years at least, hopefully, with him and Anthony Barr. But this year might we might not be able to expect so much out of rookie Eric Kendricks at middle linebacker, where, like I said, in my opinion, Chad Greenway is the ideal veteran spell there, not Audie Cole, but I like Audie Cole a lot, and he's actually currently penciled in as the number one middle linebacker above Eric Kendricks, but don't buy that. And then Michael Mauti would be the last middle linebacker. He could be a cut victim possibly, especially if they're willing to open their minds to converting Chad Greenway to a middle linebacker, not sticking him out on the edges. And then strong side behind Barr and Gerald Hodges, we've got Edmund Robinson and Josh Kadu, both of which could be cut victims. Okay, so let's finish up with the safeties here, and then we got to squeeze in a tiny bit of football news yet and wrap up the show. Man, this is going to be our longest show ever. Hope you're enjoying it. But at cornerback, the Vikings have Terrence Newman penciled in as the number 2 starter, Xavier Rhodes the number 1 starter, and then we've got Trey Waynes at 3, Captain Munnerlyn at 4, the currently suspended for 2 games or so Jabari Price at 5, and then DeMarcus Van Dyke, Justin Coleman, Josh Thomas, Jaleel Carter, and Marcus Sherrills. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cornerbacks on the roster. Look for no more than 6 of those to make the final team. So you've got Terrence Newman, Trey Waynes, Xavier Rhodes, Captain Munnerlyn, and Jabari Price. Those 5 are all locked in. So you've got DeMarcus Van Dyke, Justin Coleman, Josh Thomas, Jaleel Carter, and Marcus Sherrills all competing for one spot. Now, the one exception would be Marcus Sherrills as a kick returner and punt returner might technically be a 7th cornerback, where they would be able to keep either Jaleel Carter, Josh Thomas, Justin Coleman, or DeMarcus Van Dyke in addition to Sherrills. Or so it would appear they have 7 cornerbacks, but really Sherrills is only an emergency cornerback and is much more a full-time return man. But Jabari Price, everybody's in love with his play. And Captain Munnerlyn, I'm really excited to see what he can do being given the opportunity to play inside at the nickelback position, which is where he has been successful in his career. When he's been an awesome player, that's where he was doing it at, was in the nickel, covering the slot receivers. And we put him out on islands on the edges last year, and we're scratching our heads, well, why isn't this working? Because you didn't hire a guy that's good at doing that. So it'll be, I think he will have a great year. And assuming that, at some point, after 4 weeks, after 6 weeks, somewhere, by the halfway mark in the season, that Trey Waynes is able to overtake Terrence Newman as our starting corner on the left side, opposite Xavier Rhodes. And then we've got Captain Munnerlyn on the frickin' nickel guys, and Terrence Newman coming in the dime packages, or Jabari Price. Holy guacamole, let's go. I mean, that's a top-notch secondary, league-wide, at least as far as your corners go, excluding safeties. So it looks great there. And then we get to strong safety and free safety to wrap up. Free safety is great. Harrison Smith, one of the best in the business right now. We've also got Sean Prater, former corner, I want to say, converted safety now. He look for him to get cut. And Antoine Exum Jr. Look for him to possibly either become the new starting strong safety or become the new starting free safety and have Harrison Smith move from free safety to strong safety. I think strong safety would slightly suit Harrison Smith's skill set a little better. However, I don't think strong safety would suit his durability skill set and history better. That's the reason I like keeping Harrison Smith at free safety. But I like Antoine Exum Jr. as the other starting safety alongside Harrison Smith. But at the moment, Exum Jr. would be Harrison Smith's backup at free safety. Like I said, Prater may be able to stay on, may go. They will keep 4 safeties for sure out of the 6 that they currently have. No more than 5. Harrison Smith, guaranteed, he'll be kept. Antoine Exum Jr., guaranteed, he'll be kept. Then over to the strong safety spot, Robert Blanton. He's the penciled-in starter right now. Guaranteed, he'll be kept. Andrew Sendejo, guaranteed, he'll be kept. Now your 2 guys that might not be kept at strong safety, you've got Anthony Harris, and at free safety, Sean Prater. I feel both of those guys likely will get cut to keep more of those stud corners. Like I said, I think we're technically going to have 7 corners and 4 safeties, and likely one of these 7 corners would be able to, be converted to a safety as well. So there you go. Boom. Secondary looks great with 1 safety question, as well as, how fast can Trey Waynes get into the starting lineup. And then linebacking cores. What do we got in the rookie Eric Kendricks? What do we have at all in anybody's tanks over on the weak side linebacker where Chad Greenway plays? And then can Anthony Barr continue his superstar development, and is he fully healthy, and can he be at 100% physically? And D-line, we're pretty good to go. So there you go, part 2 of your Vikings preseason preview. Squeeze in a tiny bit of other super quick football news, and then we wrap up the show with Balls Deep Thought of the Day. Let's do Balls Juice right now, which we devote to the juicy topics in the sports world, mostly off-field. This week, Sheldon Richardson takes the cake. He is another. We have 2 inductees now, I guess, on this week's episode for our STUM Hall of Fame. Sheldon Richardson, defensive lineman of the New York Jets. Back on a couple weeks ago, in the middle of July, he was arrested for driving 143 miles an hour with a loaded firearm in the vehicle, and the vehicle reeked of marijuana, and he had a 12-year-old child in the vehicle. And this was not his first run-in. He was already suspended the first 4 games for some sort of conduct violations. So if you're a New York Jets fan, you've got to wonder where the league's going to come down. Like I said, he was already out 4 games. I mean, they could. This is like his 3rd or 4th offense. They could really slap him hard. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. They've also got defensive lineman issues with Muhammad Wilkerson, who's not happy with his contract. He's another stud. So in hindsight now, drafting Leonard Williams, getting the miracle of him falling to them where he did in the first round of this year's draft, they couldn't have been any luckier. When at first I thought it was completely not a need of theirs whatsoever, now it's as big of need as ever, especially with Todd Bowles, new head coach, coming over and trying to implement his defense that he ran and established in Arizona the last several years, and that's how he wins football games and what their identity is going to be built around. So, yeah, Sheldon Richardson, you can look up more specifics on that. I gave you the basic gist. I don't want to devote too much time to idiots being idiots. But, yeah, so he's out, and that's what the Jets, main Jets news is. Other Jets news, Geno Smith is without a doubt going to be your starter. That shouldn't have been news. You should be smart enough to figure that out before they tell you. All right. Over in Seattle, they were able to keep a bunch of their pieces. They signed Russell Wilson to a 4-year, $86 million extension. Now, that is an extension, which means it does not kick in until after this coming season. So for the 2015-2016 season, Russell Wilson will still just make $1.5 million that he was